someone is trolling celebrities and the US Treasury Department all at the same time. An anonymous crypto user transferred small amounts of Ether from a sanctioned address to celebrities like Dave Chappelle, Jimmy Fallon, and Beeple. The US Treasury Department, of course, as we know, banned the use of Tornado Cash in the US and now prohibits US people from interacting or transacting with the privacy tool. The trickster is effectively pointing out the absurdity of the sanctions here. It's not possible to block transactions from arriving in your wallet, and I think that this does a good job at showing that. Will, what do you take away from this? Do you think the celebrities are going to get caught up in some regulatory issues?
Yeah, this was a really fascinating story, and it's been talked about actually in the past where this could happen, that a U.S. government takes out an address that a lot of people have interacted with in the past, and therefore anyone who has interacted with it in the future therefore becomes tainted, and people can use these addresses in a very open manner, right? I can just send Tornado Cash money to anybody, and bam, they are in breaking the OFAC regulations, which tells you about the OFAC regulations more so than it does about Ethereum or any project built on it, right? The fact that you can send money this way and it's going to be tainted immediately. That's because these OFAC regulations typically target bank accounts, right? And they don't really, or they're not tailored for addresses that are used on blockchains, like very different projects here. Funny to see it. I don't think anything happens long term because I don't think that OFAC is going to chase down all these people. Obviously, it's a dusting attack. This is well known in the past. And if OFAC has anyone worth their salt within that administration, they're going to look at this and be like, oh, not a big deal. At the same time, I do think that there's going to be some movements around Tornado Cash over the next 6 to 12 weeks. Maybe someone boots up another implementation of it. Maybe someone does something else with it, launders a large amount of money, doesn't cover their tracks correctly. Tornado Cash is still very effective. We actually saw volumes on it pop yesterday. A lot of people were using it. And so I think there could be some unlucky or maybe not the wisest person getting caught with that and then getting themselves in hot water. Adam, over to you.
This is a fascinating story. So there have long been talks about blacklists, green lists, white lists, all kinds of different types of lists that you would want to have in a blockchain world in order to enact a system like this. And that really is the challenge, is that you need to actually fundamentally change how these technologies work in order for something like this to work. Really what you need to do is you need to adapt the system such that addresses can be placed on a protocol-wide blacklist, which would then prevent them from sending anything, effectively freezing them. Now, the problem with this, of course, is that it would fundamentally break the fungibility of the asset. Now, you could do it by stacking it on top, right? A company like Elliptic or like Chainalysis could run one of these things and allow people to run an additional piece of software that does this. Okay, that would work for customers, but it wouldn't work for everybody else. And given how many people aren't customers in the system, it means you'd get penetration max 5%, and I'd be shocked if you even got to that. So it's a lot less about what do we wish was true, and it's a lot more about what is the reality that we are faced with. And the reality that we are faced with is this dusting attack demonstrates just how nonsensical these types of controls are. This is very much the equivalent of writing rules, of the road for horse-drawn carriages and then trying to apply the same types of things, to airplanes, right? It's not even the same medium of movement, much less something that has a similar means of operation. And fundamentally, they fail as a result of that. People are always going to want this stuff, though. And again, what we see here, I think, really is a headline. We are looking at a headline that impugns these types of things, right? Not the headline around the dust attack, but the headline around the banning of this stuff in the first place. Because, Will, to your point, this is open source software. There's nobody and no company, there's nobody being sanctioned. They're trying to sanction speech. And we already have really great case law in the United States that says that that's actually something you can't do, even when the military says that it's a weapon that you're doing, right? Like, you go back to the 90s and the Clipper chip was all about this. So that's the world that we're living in today. I love this attack because it demonstrates just the ridiculousness of this and the fact that narrative is not reality, which is such an important lesson in our world today.
I'm going to ask both of you to speculate here. Do you think regulators really don't understand the tech that they are regulating, or do you think that they're playing in the gray area on purpose?
Adam's takes going to be better than mine, so I want to hear his.
I mean, this is easy. Like, again, like the so obviously they understand the technology enough to understand that it's dangerous to them, that it threatens their power, that it threatens their monopolies, and that then leads to these types of things where instead of getting effective regulation, what you get is narrative regulation, right? What you get is a court that forbids someone from transferring funds from a wallet that the court has zero control over, right? All they can do is attempt to scare you into compliance when in reality, they can't even track this stuff most of the time. Again, like companies like Chainalysis make ridiculous amounts of money working for governments trying to help them do this. And look how many arrests there still are. It's incredibly rare. Look how many hacks actually get tracked back to the person. It happens almost never unless the person was such an amateur that they make incredibly obvious mistakes. So, when Gary Gensler got the SEC, a lot of hope within the community that no one did, having thought about blockchain, that he would solve it. And in fact, what we've seen is the exact opposite. He knows better, therefore he's more dangerous as a regulator because he knows what he can do to try to make this worse. Anyways, I'm frozen. Back to you, Jen.
No, you're not frozen anymore. We heard it. I was one of those hopeful people, and I'm just so disappointed now.